Folks, welcome to the Anthropocene lecture. Let me share my screen here and we can get to it. Let's see, hold on a second. Hope everyone is enjoying classes so far. I know that I definitely wanted more of a break, hee, but gotta get back to it, right? Okay, so let me share my screen. Remember, if you have any questions, you can always reach out via email. I do have in-person office hours, and then I also have office hours online. We can talk about that anytime. All right, so we're going to talk about the Anthropocene. So basically, the concept of the Anthropocene is that we have an era of human change, right? So I'm sure you've heard of the other scenes. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Time frames, geologic time frames. Anybody have an idea? I don't know, does this sound a little crazy? Does she not realize that we are online? Haha, just kidding. Okay. So, we have the major eras. Think about like dinosaurs, right? So we have the Cenozoic era, about 66 million years ago. The Mesozoic era, 252 million years ago. Okay, this is starting to ring a bell. So we're talking about now what we call as the Anthropocene, which is the age of humans. And so why would we investigate this, right? So this is an environmental history class. It's because we mess up the environment, right? We've all probably heard about this, whether it's on the news, the radio, TikTok, whatever it is that you use, people are talking about it because you're going to be affected. So how can archaeology really help us? Well, archaeology is studying things in the past by digging them up or discovering them so we can see what has happened, right? And how they've been affected in the past and what the difference is now. How does social science contribute? Well, the difference between what we call social sciences and other sciences is social science takes into the effect of the human effect, right? Or effects on humans rather than just, you know, uh, hydrogen plus oxygen equals water, right? Hydrogen plus two oxygen, two hydrogens plus an oxygen equals water. Um, Different than social science, right? And the concept of psychology, sociology, etc. So the Anthropocene is really like an informal geologic term that we talk about for human effects. This is the Crutzen 2002 definition. Basically, that humans have had a huge effect on the ecosystems of our Earth for over a decade, even longer now. Scientists have really argued that this is a real new geologic era, and it's called the Age of Humans because we are the primary driver affecting change. Think about all the things that we do that cause change in the environment. So, some of the advantages to this are it's a good guide for researchers, right, to think about the orientation of time and when humans started causing issues, which is mostly the Industrial Revolution. Let's see, I need my slides to go forward. It's pretty easy to disseminate. We can really use this as a framework. Okay, so I study microplastics. That wasn't a thing until the 60s. We see climate change. We see changes in what's called flora and fauna, so plants and animals. We're, ruining our forests. We mine the earth. We have horrible water pollution issues all over the place. Um, this really creates a much deeper discussion onto why are we doing these things? Can we do them differently? What are the long-term effects? Can we use things like restoration and preservation to help combat the changes? And educating the generation behind us, right? Even though it might have been my parents who really kicked this off, or their parents, the next generation is the one that has to deal with it and gets left with it. So the disadvantages is that there are some basic questions that you have to answer. Should this really be Geological time scale, like the dinosaurs and whatnot. Some of the other, what you call hard scientists or geologists and earth scientists aren't really convinced. They think it's premature, and you have to think about it. Geology studies are in like millennial time scales. It'd be like 10 to 20 generations is one, kind of a concept. So they really want more data. But it's hard because we're making such huge impacts that a lot of scientists really feel like we're leaving what's called the Holocene or the previous time scale in geologic time. And we're really leaving this huge imprint, right? We're making a mark, and it's not a great one. And it seems like humans are really causing these big changes in nature. So those are the main questions. So when did this begin? The first 90% of humans were all hunter and gatherers. Only in the last 10% of our time scale have we really caused big changes. That's a big agriculture, right, that we changed over. So it used to be, hunt and gather what was there. And now, because of villages and cities, we have agricultural land. The Industrial Revolution, as I'm sure you've heard of. So we went from riding around on horseback and walking to, the wheel, driving cars, etc., burning coal, digging things out of the ground. Human population has grown 10 times in the past 300 years. And that's nuts. It's about a billion every 12 years. So that's a lot. And that name for that is called the Great Acceleration. So you can really see these trends. Up here on the left, we see this is in billions on the y-axis, and on the x-axis is the year, okay? And so you see the population like skyrocketing in the 50s. So this is the boomer generation, right? GDP is an economic term. Foreign investment. We use a lot more fertilizer. Population is growing. We dam up rivers. We use more water. You see all these things growing exponentially, meaning that they just keep going up. And so, it's all about the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in the 1750s, 1800s. And the measurement is really us. So you have population, economic growth, all of these different uses. And it's all us making these huge changes. And what you see is here in the 1950s is when it started and really started to increase. So here's a case study. So can we see this in a strata? Yes, we sure can. So look at the deposits of coal along the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania. They discovered a distinct strata characterizing the Anthropocene. So a strata is a section of rock, basically. If you want to learn more about that, take geology. There's coal silt that blankets over the terraces in the mid-channel in the river. So these are new landforms that have emerged in less than 100 years. And it's from leftover coal from processing that's being mixed in with the sediment. Nobody really knows when it started, but there's artifacts beneath the layers. It's kind of crazy. This is our coal production. So we burn coal for heat, for energy and whatnot. And so you can see again in the 1800s, barely started to increase exponentially in the mid 1900s. And this is tons on the y-axis. So you can see we've also started surface mining and coal reclamation. This is all human interactions, right? So this is just a map of the river. So we see where the strip mines are, or the main mines, and then the alluvial deposits, meaning the spread and deposits of coal that you can see across the map here. We have a lot of responses to what we call environmental pressures, or pressures on the ecosystems that cause change. So we see disappearances of cultures. My wife spent her time in Guatemala. A lot of Mayan tribes had a very different lifestyle before European invasion, colonization, and whatnot. Use of plastics versus banana leaves. A lot of things happen when we see colonization happen, and then industrialization. You see whole cultures disappear. Think about what we've done to all the Native Americans in the North American continent, all of the island peoples that have been suppressed, enslaved, etc. And you get rid of culture that way. When you see, movement of huge populations to new regions. So again, this is colonialism at its finest, migrating to different lands to find out what else is there that they can sell and trade. And then, engineering, right? Humans are pretty smart. I mean, look at what is coming out with AI and everything else. We're just getting more and more efficient at finding what we need, and we extract those resources, and Earth is a finite resource. So is it really possible to stop this? We can mitigate quite a bit of it. We're trying to decarbonize the environment by changing energy sources, trying to be more sustainable with our natural resources, thinking about um, public transportation, driving cleaner cars, etc. So what's the relevance of all of this? If we don't take care of everything, we're not gonna be able to live here anymore. So, Earth can't just redo itself. We only get one Earth, so we have to take care of it. Here are some of the main consequences. We've seen huge changes in the water cycle, damage to our ocean, as well as terrestrial ecosystems, huge weather changes. Here in Southern California, in my life, I have lived here. We've lived through lots of fires, lots of wind events, but I don't think I've ever been through a hurricane type wind event in Southern California before. Other places in the world, but not here. So you can see that here at home. Ocean acidification and coral bleaching. Ocean acidification is basically the pH of the ocean is changing, which causes the tiny organisms inside coral to die. Huge plastic pollution problems. We have big extinctions happening all over the world. People are traveling because we have airplanes, right? So you can pretty much go anywhere. And then urbanizing so many areas. So you have to bulldoze, right, the natural environment to build a city. So these broader implications, we really need to use this to think about what kind of impacts we're having on the earth. So I'm an ecologist. That's, a big part of what I study. Geographers, social science, and anthropologists are all working together. Archaeology has a lot to offer because they know how to look at previous years and previous scenes, but we all have agreed that humans are the primary driver of change. We know what's happening. Now we got to figure out what to do about it. So in conclusion, yes, the Anthropocene is there. Do you think we are? What do you think? Thanks for your time.